Movies today are very hit and miss, with arguably far more misses than hits. Although, whenever Christopher Nolan releases a movie, it always feels like film is back to the way things should be for that month or however long the movie is in theaters. He always finds a way to keep audiences invested. He knows we want to see new things with originality, all while keeping certain things familiar. He tends to be a box office success and a critically acclaimed artist, and Oppenheimer is no different than usual. With Nolan's films, many of them tend to be fictional stories, quite rooted within the dimensions of realism, with the exception of Dunkirk being a true story. The Dark Knight trilogy had no superpowered villains to oppose Batman. Interstellar featured no aliens. Inception was a dream-based theory that even gets tested and studied today. Having the talent to make a lot of fiction feel non-fiction, his Oppenheimer, based on a true story, feels so grand and epic that it almost feels fictional at times. And that's not a bad thing in any way. The premise just feels so big that it makes you think, wow, this really happened? People are capable of obtaining so much power and having this much intelligence? 80%, if not more, of this film is pure dialogue. I know that might be boring for some people and they might be expecting some action, but the dialogue was the action. So many dialogue scenes had my eyes peeled to the screen, and I was sweating because of how intense things were getting. Many scenes throughout this film where they showcased testing different types of explosions, the causes and effects, Oppenheimer's dreams and visions of atomic energy, even the damn nuke testing. That's all action. It's all spectacle, and it's all amazing. But the beauty of the film is that dialogue takes center stage of that action. The action of telling you what this film is all about. More than half of the time, sentences that form from characters' mouths feel like straight up gut shots, information that is given to the audience to describe the stark reality of the situation or the awe-inspired genius of Oppenheimer. Reactions to and from dialogue also carry home how important the message of this film is. It's not about using the bomb to win the war. It's about using the bomb to warn the world not to use this type of power again. And speaking of the bomb, I want to talk about how amazing Oppenheimer's journey is to creating the bomb and how phenomenal Cillian Murphy was in capturing this role. It's Oscar-worthy. I want to mention the poison apple scene near the beginning and how it's being described as unnecessary, since the details of it are not completely true. Whereas I understand that to a certain degree, I believe the nature of that scene's message is pivotal. The apple represents the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb works the same as the apple, in which he needed to do something. He needed to prove a point or send a message. It's something he thought he was doing for all the right reasons, to eventually find out that maybe those reasons were wrong or blinded by the wrong emotions. Throughout the entire film, we see Oppenheimer slowly but steadily build this monster of destruction in which Cillian masterfully portrays moments of positivity, weakness, remorse, strength, resilience, sadness, regret, and so much more. The moment the Trinity test rose into flames and created a cloud 10,000 feet high, Oppenheimer truly knew what he has done and what he has created. Now, how about the rest of the cast? Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., who didn't just exceed in his role as Strauss, but it may be one of his best roles of his career. But there's so many more where that came from. I was pretty sure all of Hollywood was in this film, and even then, I was seeing people whose names I don't know, but know for an absolute fact I've seen them in other movies or TV shows. Sometimes when you have a film with this much star power, some actors shine much brighter than others, or certain actors won't try their hardest when they have that many people. Well, that certainly did not happen here. Every single actor brought just as much passion to their role the way Cillian did with Oppenheimer, and utilizing the black and white scenes to objectify the story from the perspective of certain characters and or history, while the colored scenes were used for the subjective, how Oppenheimer saw the story and the world around him, that was a nice touch. The politics runs deep in this film, of course. Strauss's betrayal on Oppenheimer due to certain levels of jealousy, Leslie Groves forming a friendship with Oppenheimer, but refraining from telling him what destruction his creation will eventually cause. Whether or not Oppenheimer was a Russian communist and if he was relaying information about the project to the Russian government, and so much more. It's fascinating to see how many people were genuinely close to Oppenheimer and how Strauss found cracks and small openings to have his friends and close colleagues turn on him, especially during his time of need. And a fascinating development is, yes, Oppenheimer is the protagonist, yet Rami Malek's character, David Hill, was the hero. The last testimony that the Senate needed to hear, and David comes in almost as a socially awkward shining knight who completely crumbles the dark shadow of Louis Strauss and restores Oppenheimer's name. I guess scientists do stick together. Another thing this movie makes me realize is that I am so happy there are filmmakers like Nolan who prioritize film over digital, who would rather utilize IMAX cameras over any other. This movie, like many of his films, was built for film. He's talked about how film is the closest you can get to seeing the movie in the way you'd witness these events in real life, and I absolutely love the passion and appreciation he has for that. Add on top of that the fact that the atomic bomb was all practical. And I'm telling you right now, if this movie was filmed digitally, you would be able to tell a huge difference to the point where it might not even look like the same movie. Many of us know this by now though, but I really need to hammer in how unmatched his dedication is to telling these stories and making them feel as real as possible. No CGI. No special effects, no digital, all real. Imagine having the dedication to make a film about the atomic bomb and convincing the studio to allow you to film a real explosion with a real bomb. Sure, it wasn't a nuke, but it was big enough to capture the right effect using the right angles and camera effects. Along with these same lines of production, how about the composer Ludwig Göransson? I used to think that Hans Zimmer was the only one who truly understood what Nolan wanted from sound, but here comes Ludwig, doing just as good of a job. The guy who did the music for Community, worked his way up to Marvel, Star Wars, and now Nolan. And with Nolan films, music is no joke. It's basically another storyteller. It narrates emotion and makes you feel like you're in the room with those characters. When Kenneth Branagh's character asks young Oppenheimer if he likes music, which in turn he tells him that he must feel the music. The ramp up to the Trinity test as they await 3 years of work to drop to see if their hard work was worth it. Oppenheimer walking into the gymnasium to address the people of Los Alamos after the war has been won and everyone is smashing their feet against the floor. There are so many of those moments where the music filling those moments finds a way to portray every emotion you're feeling. There are definitely many songs from this OST that are must-adds to movie music playlists. Overall, what else can I say about this masterpiece? Well, a lot. I just don't want to keep you here for another 24 hours while I ramble on. Some who know me may ask if my Nolan bias is kicking in, considering he is my favorite director of all time. Sure, there may be some part of me who believes he can do no wrong, but I do think he has rightfully deserved to be seen that way. Suspenseful thrillers are Nolan's specialty, but now you can add biographical thriller to that list. Some who have studied history or may have researched Oppenheimer before will already know much about this story, although watching it is an experience you don't want to miss. Nolan took the risk to take a story that has so many valuable layers, but also layers that you can't overlook. He took such an important part of not just American history, but world history, and gave us an inspiring and creative vision. This film showed me so many things, like pieces of this history I didn't know, Cillian Murphy's excellence as a leading man, the fact that film should be used far more than it is today, needing more movies that differentiate from our common comic book films and action-adventure films, and the fact that Nolan can take the risk to make films and stories where he pays off in every way. And because of all of that information, I am going to give The Destroyer of Worlds, Oppenheimer, a 10 out of 10. So as per usual, now it is your turn to leave in the comments below what you thought of the movie, if you have seen it. What rating would you give it out of 10? Is it in your top 5 of Nolan films? Does it fall just outside? Has it taken your place as maybe 1 or 2? Let me know all your thoughts on this film. But that is it for this review video, everyone. And until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.